me do it another way. I want to channel my inner Tim Russert. So let me go to the board, right? And I don't have Florida. But Donald Trump, impeachments. Oh, how many impeachments? We got 2 there. How many indictments? We got 4. How many for Biden? 0. Donald Trump is right. He's sick of winning. He's just winning, running away with it. And that's why we're here. We're here because of math. That's what this is about. They can't save Donald Trump. They can't take away the 2 impeachments and the 4 indictments, but they can try to put some numbers on the board for Joe Biden. But the problem is when you sling mud, you gotta have mud. And they just don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. So much misinformation was spread about COVID-19 in this country by President Trump. One of the things I also think we should investigate is, did the professionals not share the information they had with the president because they didn't trust the president because every single day he was going out saying this stuff? Or better, going out and telling people they can drink bleach, or they should just go out and put light in the body and we'll get rid of COVID. We need to know why President Trump, who was in charge when COVID happened, he was in charge when COVID got out of control, why he didn't tell the American people the truth. Donald Trump is in so much trouble, and they can't save him. But what they can do is they can spend taxpayer money and all the time while they control these hearings to convince the American people that somehow Joe Biden has done something wrong, but there's no evidence. None, 0, zilch, nada, zippo. And you know how I know that? Because they couldn't even bring up their own impeachment. They had to bury it in committee on immigration, not on this topic, right? There are members of this committee that filed articles of impeachment, didn't bring it up for a vote, buried it in committee. Again, not on this topic, because there's no evidence on Joe Biden. Now switching over to H.R. 1615, this amendment honors this amendment by also changing its name to Make Appliances Great Again. Many of you already have the hats and shirts and flags and boats, so I figured we would just make it easy so that you could show your support for this amendment. My second amendment would give gas stoves, I think, the honor that they deserve. A stainless steel 6-burner double oven in Statuary Hall. We have statues there that are made of marble and bronze, but we don't have anything of stainless steel, and so I think this could be the first one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's your lucky day. What a day we are having here, isn't it, right? I mean, listen, as a former director of emergency management, I know a disaster when I see one. I mean, by the way, you don't believe me, just ask Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, your guy, just went on and said, perhaps...
Whose guy is Steve Bannon?
Yeah, well, you know who Steve Bannon is. Steve Bannon just went on and said perhaps the Republicans shouldn't have started with a witness. He was talking about Professor Turley, who was going to say right off the bat that there wasn't an impeachable offense. I quote, he says, perhaps we should have put him on the maybe list for one of our witnesses. So your other witness, Ms. O'Connor, gave a complete recitation of the last 9 months, 8 months of these hearings. She went through some of the greatest hits that have come out, right? Everything that has been presented, both in these committees that we've been having, on TV, all of the evidence that you guys have been presenting over the last 8 months, all of that together. And what does Professor Turley say? It says everything we know at this juncture doesn't rise to the level of impeachment. Boy, that is awkward. It's like political impeachment malpractice. But look, let's go back at some of the previous comments that my colleagues have given. So the chairman, and I have a slide, the chairman goes on Hannity, right? You guys all know Sean, you appear with him on Fox News all the time, right? And Hannity asks a softball question, right? This is a total softball. Do you believe that this is now officially the Joe Biden bribery allegation, and do you believe you will be able to prove it? The chairman should have just said yes, but nope, he says hope so, because he doesn't have any evidence, couldn't say yes, right? Next slide, please. Then we have Senator Grassley. Grassley says what we all know out loud. We aren't interested in whether or not the accusations against Vice President Biden are accurate. Chuck, we know. We know you're not interested in the truth. Next slide, please. And then Donald Trump, he's giving it all away. We know he likes to show his cards. He says, I think had they not done it to me, perhaps you wouldn't have it being done to them. And this is going to happen with indictments, too. So, Donald Trump, the tough guy, right? What is he saying? He's teaching the lesson we all teach our kids, right? If they do it to you, go do it back. So look, we're all appearing now in the world's worst acted TV drama, right? It's been picked up for a second season, the Real House Republicans of Oversight. Perhaps the material's so bad due to the writer's strike. I mean, how many Republicans, Freedom Caucus members, part of the Chaos Caucus, have said there's no evidence to impeach Joe Biden? And again, of course, we know it's not about the evidence. Why? Here's a list of all of the articles of impeachment that have been filed by my colleagues, some that are on this committee. When was the first article filed? It was filed in January of 21, 2 weeks after January 6th. So before we had a single hearing, before they went through this myriad of phishing, they were filing articles of impeachment. Professor Turley, you said this doesn't rise to the level of impeachment, and you said they shouldn't prejudge. Well, here's a list right here of every single member, many on this committee, prejudging. They're filing articles of impeachment. COVID, Afghanistan, Hunter Biden, and they're all one-upping each other in the Donald Trump Friend Olympics, trying to get invited to the sleepover at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, I filed articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland. No, I filed articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris. Okay? It is ridiculous. But this is what this is about. Let me show you. It's a simple board, right? So all other presidents in the United States, 50% of the impeachments. Donald Trump, the other 50. Donald Trump has half of the impeachments in American history. But you know what? He's got 100% of the indictments. 100% of all indictments. So look, we get it. We know why we're here. That's why they say the Biden family, the Bidens, James Biden, Joe Biden's dog, Commander, but not Joe Biden. Never Joe Biden. So when are you going to have the vote on impeachment, Mr. Chairman? What are you scared of? Call the vote. Come on. If you all think there's so much evidence, we're here. Call the vote on impeachment. Impeach him right now. I dare you. We heard a lot about the Bidens, the Biden family, Biden associates, right? Bidens, plural, the S. What does the apostrophe mean? But not Joe Biden. Didn't hear a lot about Joe Biden. Why? Because he didn't do anything. This has nothing to do with him. My colleagues talked about foreign countries, foreign entities, trying to make it all scary for the American people. Of course, President Trump got $5.4 million from the Chinese while he was president because they were leasing space in Trump Tower. He goes out and air kisses President Xi. Totally perfect. Jared Kushner gets $2 billion from the Saudis, even though he oversaw Mideast peace. Totally kosher. Ivanka Trump, she's doing business with the Chinese while she's working in the White House. Totally beautiful. Right? Why do I bring that up? They want to say you have credibility. The problem is they have none. They have no credibility. And because you're here at their behest, their lack of their credibility questions your credibility. Not because of you personally, but because of what they've done over the last several years. So the chairman says you're credible. You want to know actually what they feel about you? People like you who work in government. I got pages of it. It goes on for years. But you know what? I'll just read a couple of adjectives. Trump has called people like you, so-called whistleblowers, fake whistleblowers, partisan people, political hack jobs, scams, frauds, traitors, cowards, spies, losers, clowns, thugs, puppets, unelected bureaucrats, the swamp, and my favorite, the deep state. By the way, you members of the deep state? You members of the deep state? Did you stop paying? It's a rhetorical question. Did you stop paying your deep state dues? Did you not attend the latest deep state meeting? Is that why you're not in the deep state? I can't tell when they want people like yourself to be in the deep state, not in the deep state, depending upon what the deep state is saying. Again, it undermines their credibility. It undermines government. It undermines the Americans' trust in government. It undermines our institutions. And throughout all of this, for years, 4 years of it, they said nothing. And now, in an effort to own Hunter Biden, okay, they're assembling nude photos of him, right? Having some intern have to sit in a room and blow up these photos and put it on poster board and figure out, which ones are beyond the pale. Mr. Shapley, you said that the DOJ was slowing down the investigation. But some of that happened when President Trump was president. And I found it strange that when my colleague tried to ask both of you these questions about when your perceived slowness of this happened, you all struggled for a period of time to admit that it started under President Trump. Was President Trump directing that DOJ to slow down the investigation? He wasn't, just like President Biden isn't now. So if there's any perceived issues with DOJ, it's with DOJ. It's not with the president. Mr. Ziegler, you said no one's above the law regardless of political affiliation. Do you think the president's son-in-law, not as an IRS agent, as a person, do you think the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who worked in the White House, couldn't get security clearance until the president made it happen, was put in charge of Mideast peace, and with no investment experience got $2 billion from the Saudis? You guys made a lot of noise today about $17 million. But what about $2 billion? Do you think as a person that should be looked at? Sounds a little strange.
Congressman, thank you for that question. Given the statute, I am limited to my testimony
I understand.
Today.
I got it. But think about it. $2 billion from a foreign country that he was put in charge of their policy while he worked in the White House. They got no questions about that. That's totally great, totally wonderful, right? You know, Joe Biden has been in Washington for almost 50 years. We didn't hear about Hunter until like a couple of years ago. Why? Because it's a pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. But also, I think the American people have a right to know why so much misinformation was spread about COVID-19 in this country by President Trump. Let me just read some of the greatest hits from President Trump. China's been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. Okay. I just spoke to President Xi last night. And you know, we're working on the problem, the virus. It's a very tough situation. I think he's going to handle it. I think it's handled very well. We're helping wherever we can. Just had a long conversation with the president of China. He's strong, sharp, powerful, focused on leading the counterattack to the coronavirus. He feels they're doing very well, even building hospitals in a matter of days. Great discipline in taking place in China. President leads strongly in a very successful operation. We're working closely with China to help. I think China was very, professionally run in a sense. They've got everything under control. I really believe they're going to have it under control very soon. You know, in April, supposedly it's going to die with the hotter weather, and that's a beautiful date to look forward to. But China, I can tell you, is working very hard. We have very few people in this country with COVID, and you know what? They're getting better. They're all getting better. I think the whole situation will work out well. We pretty much shut it down coming from China. You know, we only have 15 people with COVID. And, 15 within a couple of days, it's going to go down to 0. That's a pretty good job we've done. It's going to go away, hopefully at the end of the month, and if not, hopefully soon after that. I could keep going. This goes on, and every day it goes on, there were more and more cases in this country. And this went on for a long period of time. So yes, we need to investigate. We need to investigate the origins of COVID. We need to know what we knew when, and we need to share that with the American people. And we need to know why President Trump, who was in charge when COVID happened, he was in charge when COVID got out of control, why he didn't tell the American people the truth. I yield back.